everybody. Welcome to the episode review for Doctor Who, episode 4, The Arachnids of the UK. Oh my god, I don't even know where to begin with this one. Uh, I'll be perfectly frank with you before I get started. I am absolutely petrified of spiders. So I saw the title and I'm like, okay, here's hoping that this doesn't get into the level where I'm going to completely freak out. And yeah, as a kid, I pretty much almost didn't make it through arachnophobia. So I was bound and determined to give this episode a try. Uh, Again, before I get any further into this, I have not seen Rosa yet. I don't know what happened. Used to, the BBC was really good about um, re-airing the week's episode a couple of times during the week, and I think I've seen it show up on the schedule once, and I wasn't home. So I'm just gonna have to keep watching the schedule, and as soon as it comes on, I'll be able to do the review on it. I was really looking forward to that one, considering it's an important area of U.S. history. So we'll just have to see what happens. Anyway, from the looks of things, it sounds like the TARDIS crew isn't quite sure where they want to be. Graham is still mourning Grace. We got to see a little bit of her tonight, kind of like the ghost that's haunting him in a way, his own thoughts. And I that's one character I wish we'd had more of before she'd passed, because she would have been awesome, I think, on the TARDIS crew. But we do have more of an opportunity for Ryan and Graham to bond more. A letter showed up when they got home. Interestingly enough, it's only been half an hour since the warehouse ordeal, so the family doesn't even, any friend's family doesn't even realize that the group's been gone a while. Which, according to the timing issues we've had prior, that's actually pretty good. Um, Ryan's dad sent a letter, and it looks like there may be a bit more to talk about between the two of them, because Ryan's dad wants him to move in with his proper family. Never mind that family of the heart sometimes winds up being a lot more important and loving than family of blood. And outside of a couple of my blood family, that rings true for me. So I'm hoping everybody has supportive family, not just of blood, but of heart as well. And make sure to hold on tight. Um, anyway, we get to meet Yaz's family, and boy, is that an eclectic group. uh, Sister is a snipey little wench, and not quite sure what to make of her yet. If we see more of her, we'll find out. Her dad is epic. He's one of those conspiracy theorists, and Nadja, her mother, is kind of like, I don't ever want to say my husband's right, you know? So it's one of those families that have seem to have more fun sniping than anything else. So it makes me wonder if that's one of the reasons that Yaz is not quite happy in regards to her career, even though she's still in, training. So she's used to things being a little uncontrollable at home. Maybe she just wants that at work too. Um, so we have spiders acting odd. Uh, there's cobwebs, of course, foreshadowing with that, and some really great special effects. Much better than the old classic, and I hate to use the word classic because it's more of a cult following for arachnophobia, but the special effects were phenomenal, especially with the larger spiders. And of course, I'm sitting half on my bed holding onto a pillow going, oh no, why did the spiders just, no, couldn't have been anything else, Ugh. My first instinct is, where's the flamethrower? That's simply because I don't like spiders. And terrified. Petrified. Yeah. Of course, Graham and Ryan aren't too happy with it either, because Graham is just like, I really don't like this, especially when they get to go and find a specimen. And it's just, I'm getting out of order, but this particular one has kind of fried my brain a bit. Um, Family issues showing up not just for Graham and for Yaz. The doctor's not quite sure how she's fitting in, and she's made the comment once that she's not quite sure of herself yet. So, a little bit more of erratic behavior, but given everything, we've got a hormone shift, everything else, it's to be expected. Um, One thing I didn't like, and I'll be honest with you, let's just hope that the president doesn't pay attention to BBCA. Uh, Chibnall wrote a representation of somebody who is wealthy and has intentions of running in the White House. Basically, wrote it. I'm gonna backtrack a bit. Years ago, I was reading a story by Barbara Cartland, and it was done like in the 1950s, I think, 1960s. And the U.S., the Americans are shown to be egotistical, gun happy, cowboy maniacs type thing. And it's a stereotype. Not all of us are this way. Um, I'd say I'm from Texas, and there are people in the United States who say, "Oh, then you must ride a horse to school and have oil wells and everything else." No, that's actually a very small minority. So when I'm looking at this particular episode, we have a gun happy, it's is my way or the highway type American, and all I can think of is what is Chibnall trying to prove here? Um, am I a strong believer in our constitutional rights to carry firearms? Yeah, I am. Um, the problem is that the limitations need to be changed, and that's a problem we're facing. And until organizations like the NRA take a step back and say, hey, they're right, there should be um, better guidelines for this, then we're going to continue having the problems. But what the rest of the world doesn't understand is that for every American family that has a firearm for protection, not just from home invasion, but originally that amendment was written so that we could protect ourselves from our own government if we had to. Back in the American Revolutionary times and before, you know, a woman's home was not sacrosanct. The British military could come in and take whatever they wanted. It didn't matter. So when the Constitution was being put together, that's why they gave the American people the right to bear arms. And it was to protect the home, from outside invasion. It doesn't matter if it's the government. It doesn't matter if it's somebody coming in meaning to harm your family. And a lot of people don't think about that, and unfortunately, even our own history teachers are losing sight of that as textbooks change. So I can't exactly, be happy with this representation because of that. The other thing a lot of people don't understand either is that a lot of the shootings that are going on, not a lot of the times, the guns weren't brought from home. They were picked up black market, things like that. So a lot of the crime that supposedly are committed by personal weapons doesn't happen that way. And so basically, the gun restriction and whatnot basically is going to be saying, okay, we can't do anything about the black market weapons, but hey, we're going to take away your guns and then see what happens. Just no. But as an American, as somebody who faces stereotypes a lot just by simply being, um, I think Chibnall needs to back off a bit. Point made. Point's been made for some time. You're pretty much flogging a dead horse, and a lot of people are going to be sensitive about this. I know I was a bit. I wasn't like angry about it, but it was. I have friends from across the world that I chat to, email pen pals and things like that, and we've discussed things like this before. And it doesn't matter if you're in Germany, if you're in Australia, UK. France, wherever. Unfortunately, that stereotype is alive and well, and it needs to stop. It's one of those things that needs to stop, and I'd like to see Chibnall, understand this and maybe show that we're not all gun crazy, arrogant Yanks. And as a Texas girl, I take that particular term offensively, but it is what it is. But for those who are watching that are from outside the US, understand that that is a stereotype that we are trying to push past. And, if you have a chance, even if it's just message me on YouTube and say, hey, I'd like a little bit more information. If you have an American friend, talk to them. They'll be able to tell you the same thing, that what you're seeing and what the media is hyping, it's granted, these things are tragic, they're horrible. Um, but what they don't show is how many home invasions, how many children are protected because a parent decided to buy a shotgun or a firearm of some sort, or an off-duty police officer carrying a firearm was able to protect a school. Those don't get the media attention as much as the horrific events like what's happened in this last year for the schools, um, recently for the synagogue, and things of that nature. To be perfectly honest with you, guns wasn't the problem at the synagogue. It's the racism problem that's becoming worse, and I know exactly who to point the fingers at for that. And I'm not going to say it right now, but some of the American people will pretty much know what I'm talking about. So, um, lesson learned, unfortunately. I really wish we had the doctor wasn't a fictional character, and maybe, there was a way to learn from him and her. But yeah, like I said, Chibnall is holding up a mirror to a stereotype, and we're not exactly hitting the problem. We're just hitting the image that everybody's holding. Um, I did find it interesting in this episode that big corporate seemed to be the target as well today. The been a lot of issues going on in the news lately about how landfills are becoming a more and more difficult problem because we aren't things aren't getting recycled properly. Toxic waste isn't being, chemicals aren't being disposed of to the point where it becomes toxic. Um, Things of that nature. I mean, I've seen pictures of medical debris all over beaches, and I've grown up with the image. Unfortunately, as the population expands, our waste disposal has not grown along with the technology, not as fast as it needs to. Um, so that's a good point there, and that's what I'm choosing to take away from this particular episode. I do, like I said, special effects were amazing. The acting's a lot. The team's coming together. Um, Jodie is definitely keeping on the physicality side, so I'm really enjoying that particular part. We didn't have as much sonic screwdriver or the sonic Swiss Army knife today, which I was kind of grateful for because I know I've said in past reviews that it's one of those crutches that, really needs to be backed off from. So I like that decision. Um, and the fact is that we had, how do I say this? She had an expert on arachnids from a university that she just happened to stumble across who was looking for a friend. And the fact that she had that knowledge at hand and wasn't afraid to go, okay, don't know this, what am I missing? You know, um, I like that. I like the fact that if there's a knowledge gap, the doctor is willing to fill it and not claiming to be all knowledgeable on that particular point. Um, Sometimes, too, I wonder if Chibnall wasn't given the message of just because we can do something doesn't necessarily mean that we should. The genetic alteration of spiders, whether it be longer lifespan, stronger spider web, I know there's a lot of uses for spider silk, but is it our right to interfere with nature just because we need something? You know, something to think about. That's one of the things Doctor Who's really good for, is holding up mirrors and going, hello, warning sign here. Is this the right thing to do? It's one of the reasons I've loved the show for so long. So, um, yeah, outside of the little issue I had with Chibnall and the stereotypical businessman government political thing, yeah, I enjoyed the episode a lot, except for the whole fact that there was parts I'm holding onto the pillow going, spiders! Why did it have to be spiders? No! But, what was it? Was an article I read one time in one of my books that I'd had said that the best part of Doctor Who is watching it from behind the sofa, you know? And for the first time, outside of the introduction of the Weeping Angels, and I don't care what you say, that's got to be the creepiest, scariest of the Doctor Who villains out there. I'm sorry. But anyway, that was the first time I was literally holding on to something going, can we get off the spider now? Please, 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 So I'm curious what your thoughts are. Like I said, personal challenge, talk to an American, get the truth, especially if ones who understand our history a bit more than some others do. Um, Also, too, what are your thoughts on the messages kind of hidden in this one, as far as what we're doing genetically in regards to other animals and ourselves, as well as taking care of our environment. It's not just us that's affected; it's from all creatures, great and small. So, yeah, this is not going to be a long review, but I wanted to get something out there. And so just let me know what your thoughts are. And I hope to see you guys next week on the next episode. And I pretty much am hoping that this one is going to be uh, less dealing with critters. And I don't know. To be honest, the preview really didn't give us a lot. So I have to wait and see. It looked interesting, though. And I'll check you guys later.